We're back again on the podcast. I'm here with my friend April Hutchinson. What's going on?
Nothing much. How are you doing, buddy?
It's another day in what do they say, Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. So we're
Yeah,
here to talk some important
exactly.
things. I feel like, especially this month, it's it's quite concerning, and I really wanted to start off with the people are ignoring the Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're not seeing a lot of dialogue or posting and things like that. It's like it's being suppressed. Let's really take a deep dive into this. What's going on with men's mental health and why is it not being talked about more?
Well, no, exactly. Actually, there's a lot of stuff. I think is it not Indigenous Aware Month as well?
Think
I
so?
believe.
Believe so?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Well, I think everything's getting overshadowed by Pride Month yet again. Yeah, so it is Men's Mental Health Month, which is I think actually the whole month should be Mental Health Awareness Month in general for everyone, especially June being Pride Month. People might hate me for saying that, but anyways, yeah. So mental health or Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, is very important, and yeah, it is getting kind of pushed to the back burner. And I did a posting in my story today because unfortunately, one of my friends recently, he was a addiction counselor who helped many people. Recently committed suicide a couple of days ago, which really touched me because I've spoken about my overcoming my alcohol addiction, and in this person specifically, he relapsed on drugs, and obviously he just knew that he couldn't get back on track again. And it just touched me because I know obviously if I ever relapsed, I just wouldn't have another recovery in me, right? And I probably would definitely either take my own life or just die from my alcoholism, right? So it was just sad because I sat there and I thought, wow, he just probably felt so helpless, right? And here you have a man that actually helps people. That's his job. That's his living, right? Is to help people struggling. And he probably felt so helpless, especially in his role where he has to be so strong and be there for other people. He probably just had, he just probably felt like he couldn't reach out to someone. He had to be that rock all the time. So I'm really trying to pump out a lot of stuff, especially on my Instagram for men, just to be like, you know what? Because men are always like, oh, we have to be the providers, we have to be that strong person, that rock for our mates, for our wives, and for our little girls. And there's no shame in that. There's no shame in reaching out. And I'm always saying if people have addiction problems or mental health, to reach out to me because I have so many resources that I can hand out, or phone numbers, even just therapy groups that someone can go to. But yeah, I think it's just like a stigma. Like there's a shame involved, right, when it comes to men having mental health issues and struggle. So we really, if anything, with men, we need to pump it out there more.
I remember when we sat, it was about maybe 3 months ago, we sat down face to face. We had that conversation, and it was such a rewarding conversation for the community, for both of our communities, you know what I mean, and things like that. And now we're back here today. And it is true because men's mental health is being overshadowed. And there's so many just different things. But I feel like what's happening right now, and I want to speak from just a male perspective, there needs to be a level of discernment between the calculated few of men and women to rally together to help raise this awareness, right? I think we pick and choose what it is we want to talk about, what we want to give airtime to. And I think that you said it, like men don't men have to be like the strong provider, but there's a lot of things that men deal with. Believe it or not, men are technically more somewhat emotional than women. And that's my point of view because I think we got to deal with so many different things. You know what I mean? There's life, there's death. Like there's some people around me that have passed away, sorry. And there's been times where I had to look and say, who is there for me? Yes, you have family. Yes, you have friends. But I'm talking about those close set of people. Did they bring that level of discernment? Did they show up for me when I needed it? And especially being the month of June here, there's a lot of different talking points that are happening. And I just don't think we want to stand up and we want to really be vocal. on social media. We don't want to use our platforms because we're scared of what the others are going to say or what they're going to say. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And whatnot. And I think my question to you is, how do you think, from your point of view, more women can help support men as far as dealing with mental health and bringing that level of discernment? Yo, guys, what's going on? I appreciate you. Thank you. Turn on all bell notifications, subscribe, like, and comment to the podcast. It's the best way to stay up to date. And hey, it helps us gain the clarity and boost ourselves into that algorithm. We appreciate the support each and every day, each and every week. Let's keep on going to keep on growing. Peace.
Well, I mean, like it's funny. So I have obviously a boyfriend of 8 years, and he's not a big talker. I always try to get him out of himself, and I just know he's not. And back to the whole like men having. I think men they grow up they either have a circle of friends that they've had from high school, and then they keep those friends for a lifetime kind of thing. Because as you get older, and sometimes it's the same with women, you either keep those friends or you don't, because once you maybe go into like marriages and have kids, you lose a lot of those close friends. So I know, for example, my boyfriend, he doesn't have male friends, so he's very much on his own. He doesn't have male buddies to talk to. He holds everything inside. And a lot of men, and that's why the male suicide rate is so high, is because men don't have that. And that's why also too, I mean, I don't like to talk about suicide because when you talk about it, it's just kind of it just gravitate people talk, I just don't like talking about it, right? So I mean, men's methods of it are different than females. And but I really, what I do for my partner, and this is good advice for women out there, is like really try to say after dinner, I like to mentally check in with my partner, like either twice a week, say on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and say, hey, what's going on? How was work? How are you feeling? And I know it sounds really cheesy. I'm not trying to be a therapist, but I'd be like, hey, you seem kind of off today. Did you have a good day at work? Is something stressing you? Anything you want to chat about? Sometimes we just do a check in about, like they always say, it's nice to check in about finances once a week. Sometimes it's good to have a date night just to reconnect, do something sweet for one another, but to always have that connection, that closeness, right? Give them a shoulder rub, like do something nice for them. Because men like that too. Men, even though like we say they're like that big burly provider kind of guy, men also like the same things that women do sometimes too, right? They like to be taken care of as well. Like so, kind of it goes both ways, right?
Well,
So
you know what you're
yeah,
speaking to now. You're speaking to the words of, the five love languages,
yeah,
because it's two
yeah,
people in the circumference of what's going on in a relationship. Doesn't necessarily have to be marriage or anything like that. And I think that us men, we show up for the women in our life. We ask those
hmm,
questions. What you're basically speaking to is emotional intelligence. And I
yeah,
think that you have to have that in any type of relationship that it is that you're having between a man and a woman. This is what we're
yeah,
speaking of. We're not talking about gay or anything like that. Even though I do support it, it is what it is. I have gay friends. It is what it is. I want to make sure I just underline that there. But it's just like, how do you check in? I'm gonna check in with you. I'm gonna figure out what's going on with you, and it has to be vice versa. It's like tit for tat, because
yeah.
that's how you
Well,
build like basic level of communication skills 101. But not everybody
exactly.
wants to communicate.
That's communication. I mean, I learned that in rehab, right? Like for me as a recovering alcoholic, I need to get off what's on my chest. If something's bothering me, I cannot hold that in, because if I hold that in, I'm going to relapse, because I'm going to build and build and build. I'm going to explode, or I'll hold resentments. That's why it's very important. And like I said, my partner's not a big talker. I don't force him to talk, but I do like to mentally check in with him. And even like, and it does. So what I'm saying right now, it goes both ways. It could work with a gay couple as well. But, and I mean, as far as the communication goes, I was thinking this the other day when I was going for, we go talking about touch, right? When I went for a massage the other day, I said to my massage therapist, I remember when I was on my own for like 8 years, I wasn't dating anyone. I loved being on my own. But you know what I really missed? Touch. I missed someone touching me. And that was and I said to her, you must get a lot of clients that just come in that want to be touched. And she was like, you have no idea how many people just come in for therapy just to feel touched. And she said some people, a lot of men would cry, just she would put her hands just on their chests and they would just cry. And it was just a beautiful thing to her because she's like, that's all they needed, right? Just to feel touched. And it almost makes me cry talking about it because I'm just
No,
like,
no, and I get it. I
it's,
get what you're saying. I get
yeah.
exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
And I
It's
remember when I was on my own, that was something that I really, really missed. And I just didn't think about it back then of how much I did miss that until I got a massage. And I was like, wow, like I really did miss that. Like, not the cuddling, but just the human touch, right? It's so important. Yeah.
and it speaks to so many different things. Like I say, level one basic of any type of relationship has to come to communication, but you have people that don't want to communicate. I don't know why. I think it's weird when you're in a relationship why you don't want to express certain things about you. You know what I mean? Like you have the five love languages. I'm a words of affirmation guy. Say whatever it is you say to me that's like encouraging, that helps the mojo go. You have some people that do the gifts, you know, all the other ones that are out there. You know what I mean? I'm kind of drawing a little bit of a blank. Don't come for me, people. But I think you just have to really just be around that person. Can you guys breathe the same air? How do we simply sit here and just build off of that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Heck, that's why I champion, if you're in a committed relationship, take a spa day together. You know what I mean? Do things for each other, because I'm going to be honest. The massage that you get from a massage therapist is a lot different than you getting it from your lover. Trust me.
Yes.
You want to feel that because you know what? It
Right.
leads to so many different things. So
Yeah, no, and I'm the same way. I'm a words of affirmation person too, and it's really nice. And it's funny because that even comes down to like, I always say this to my boyfriend, and I'm like, because he's not a big words of affirmation person, and I guess growing up with a father that he would just give me like $100 bill for my birthday, but all I wanted was for him to say, "Hey, good job," or "I'm proud of you." I do bring that up to my boyfriend a lot and say, hey, can you just tell me like you look beautiful, or hey, I'll lift weights at the gym. I'll be like, oh, I got a 500-pound deadlift. I just want to hear that's awesome instead of like whatever. I want to hear that. Definitely a words of affirmation kind of girl. Yeah.
that speaks to the ones that are watching this and they're listening to this, is that you just have to ask those questions. Sometimes
Yeah.
just ask those questions, because you know what? That's how you build. You know what I mean? Like, look at
Yeah.
us. We're giving a little relationship advice to the ones that need
Love
to
it.
hear it. You know what I mean? And I love that. Which, we talk about men's mental health, and I think it even goes back to where I'll even give quick little studies to some folks, is that try to go out in your community and find if there's any men's groups that are out there. You know what I mean? Guys that are
Hmm.
network. I'm not talking about guys that are going out and drinking alcohol or anything like that. None of that. But like, what are they doing? Is it a bowling club? Is it a pool? Is a pool club playing darts? Heck, go for a hike, go for a run. Maybe it's a dinner group. You know what I mean? Things like that. There's a squash in here in the city that we live in. There's a squash club, things like that. Find something where you can find ideal men in your community that can be able to say, hey, like, listen, I have a recommendation. I know a friend. Hey, meet up with this person, and then you just take it from there. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And even just going back to that, the whole like the drinking thing, like that ties into the whole like for mental health too. Obviously, stay off any depressants, right? So that even comes down to, for me, I'm a big anti dope smoker. I'm not a big fan of like the smoking of the marijuana because it's a depressant. I know a lot of people do smoke it, but I would say like obviously to help your mental health, I would say, obviously stay off any alcohol or any mind altering substances and really crack down. Like for the month, you can make it like a thing. Hey, this month I'm going to start meal prepping or start a new activity on every Sunday. I'm going to go to the Western Fair Market. I'm going to buy something new and try a new recipe. And, the diet's very important, right? So that'll definitely affect your mind, right? So,
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I was on a impromptu Instagram live last week with a friend of mine, came on the podcast by the name of Beck Lover, and he doesn't drink, but he showcased this drink that is like it's an all natural substance that makes you feel good. All natural substance.
what is this?
I can't remember what it was called. It start with a K. I wish I could just knock on his door right now. You know what I mean? Let me go on Instagram real quick and figure it out. But it's like, I've seen a lot of high achievers really start simply not promoting or drinking, not doing any
Mm-hmm.
drugs. They go out for dinners, they have water, or you may have like, the Perrier water, which I don't do. So don't come for me. I don't drink that. I don't, that's not my thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And stuff like that. But you don't necessarily have to drink to feel nice. You don't have to smoke or do whatever things you're doing to feel good. You can feel
Mm-hmm.
good within your own self. Like, heck, go to the ice cream parlor.
Oh, yeah.
Get a double chocolate caramel sundae, whatever you want, with bananas and strawberries, and figure it out. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you speak a lot about, what you've been through with alcohol and things like that. What are three things that you're really building into this community with that?
What am I building in this community with that?
Yeah. Like as far as like awareness.
Well, like, I mean, I think, geez, like, again, I think just what we talked about there with, communication, I think for me, whoever I talk to, whether it's my friends or, I mean, my family or my loved ones, I think it's always important just to keep the lines open and to communicate. Again, I can't hold anything in. And again, back to that person, that counselor that committed suicide, right? Like, I was just, stuff like that really hits home for me because it just brings me full circle back to where I was, right? It brings me back to that dark place where I was sitting at home by myself in the dark, drinking and almost dead, right? And it's called, playing the tape backwards. And it's sad, but I need times like that to hit it back home again, right? Because otherwise, you start getting complacent, right? And that's scary too, being complacent, because then you can surely relapse that way. So I think, yeah, just being openly communicating with people. And I think too, giving back, I touch on this a lot in my podcast, is giving back to the community. Volunteering and helping people, that helps me stay sober. Nothing makes me happier than to help someone. And I mean, that's just a random, like, in my day job, I get to talk to people all day. I mean, I try to help homeless people as much as I can in my day, whether it's buying them a meal or, I'll tell a homeless person, or my story. And they think it's fascinating because they think they're hopeless and helpless. And I'd be like, hey, I was there. Like, I wasn't homeless, but I almost died. And I tell them my story, and, I'll give them a booklet to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. I'll tell them my story. So I think just telling my story to someone, a young girl, that lifts them up, I think that helps me stay sober, right? And that helps them in return. So,
You
um,
know, I'll speak to this for you because you where you are in your life right now, and I always like to give flowers. I feel like you can be the spearhead to so many different things for so many different women and men. Not only with the female sports, right? Keep that alive and well. Not have men come in there and infiltrate. You know what I mean? But I look at it where there's some women that grow up and maybe not have their parents in their life, maybe not have a mother in their life, and they can look at you to be that breath of fresh air, that you can be like the wind for their sails now. You know what I mean? To be like, hey, like, listen, April's out here doing some kick ass shit in the community. I could learn from her. You know what I mean? So it's not saying that you're replacing and being their parent, but you're being that role model for them. You're being that mentor for them. So hats off to you because I believe that's the next step for you, honestly.
yeah, you know what? And I'm happy you said that, Rory. That actually touches me really, like, a lot, because I actually, like, I lost my mom, right? And so I actually went through a lot of my important things in my life without my mom. And I say this all the time to my boyfriend. I'm like, something will happen in my life, and I'm like, oh, I wish my mom was with me to see that, or I wish, it's crappy. I guess I went through, like, even like next year, if I get married, it's like I won't have my mom at my wedding. So it's like all these little things that happened. Actually, some of the proudest moments in my life, my mom was never around for. And so I would love that. And I'm actually, that's my biggest thing, that, obviously this keep female sports female thing is going to come to an end, I think, down the road. And so what would like to do is, yeah, be a role model for little girls that, don't have strong role models, but don't have, say, money for sports that will help them with, either overcoming some type of mental illness or some type of addiction or don't have a good path in their life. So I want the proceeds of my apparel line to go to that instead of my advocacy for fairness in sports. I've already decided with my PR team that I want my money to go to kids or little girls that don't have the money or the funds for that. So, because I mean, sports helped me, right? I talk about that all the time, that if I didn't have sports, I don't know where I would be, right? I thanked my dad. You were there, right? As my speech, that my dad basically saved my life, right? Getting me into sports. So I want little girls to have that opportunity as well. So
No, and it speaks so much volumes. Like I get goosebumps right now when you said, because that speech alone, if they were not at that Rebel News conference, like you missed it all. The brilliant speakers, yourself, like doing a podcast with you, and this is on the record now. I didn't even get a chance to even tell you about how I felt, but it's like listening to you when you did the 20 to 25 minute speech, and then doing a podcast with you, and then just sitting there and just really thinking about everything. I was so moved just sitting there with my camera. The only thing that hurt was my shoulder, because I was like, okay, I gotta still hold this thing here. I should have brought my tripod when I came there, but it hit me in such a way, because I'm like, you can see you're in your element. You're in your fucking element. And it's like, whatever's going on in this world, and whatever, people want to say, and the detractors and the naysayers, I go through it also too. I get it, here and there, but I don't let it ignore. I just ignore it. I just keep going forward. That's what I do. I keep going forward. I keep pushing past. I see you doing that thing, and just keep kicking ass. Keep kicking ass. Like, you can do whatever it is you put your mind to. You know what I mean? So
thank you. Yeah,
yeah,
no,
for sure.
it means a lot to me.
Yeah. You know, this world is such a I just chuckled to myself, because there's just so much distractions. There's just so much stuff going on, and I know we've talked about so many different things. I think the question I want to bring to you is, what do you want to see more in this world? Do you want to see us have more equality in this world, or more unity in this world?
Jeez, that's a tough one. That's a really tough question. Well, I feel like almost like the two flip and flop so much, because it's almost like for me, because my stance right now, what I'm fighting for with women's sports and everything, with men coming into our washrooms and our sports, I feel like I now, how they felt back in the, what was it, the 60s. I mean it was a long time where women were fighting for our rights, right? I feel like we're fighting for our rights again. Right now I want equality. We should always have unity, I feel, to me. Right now I want equality. For
But you're
what?
preaching equality for something that's important, and I think I know
Yeah.
I gotta watch what I say here to a degree, but equality should be for in fairness of sport, and equality in women making more money in their respective
Well,
areas in life.
in areas of life too. Right now, we do not have equality in several areas. We have now a hierarchy of, we've talked about that on your of rights pertaining to, we've talked about this. And it's dangerous because, we have men going into shelters. We have men going into women's shelters. There was a report just the other day by True North where here at the Unity Project, where I actually used to be a volunteer, there was a woman that went into I think she was actually she was at the battered women's shelter, but she went into the Unity Project there, and she was put in with a man. She had to share this small room with a man, like just unbelievable. So no, and I think we were supposed to talk about that today, about the sharing of the
No,
taking.
no, and that's why I led that up the way I did, because the thing is
Yeah,
like, we're there, we've arrived. Like, I think that's so dangerous. Like,
yeah. So that's the dangerous part. That's what I'm saying. I first think equality is number one, because we're not going to get unity without equality. Put it that way. That's first and foremost.
Sure.
So
So speak on that, because it's strange for me because I look at myself, visibly black, 6'4", 250 pounds. I go walk in a public washroom and I'm sharing a washroom now with females. For me, and it's some parts around the city here. I don't know if we want to maybe not give them the airtime. You know what I mean? Because they'll probably be like, "Oh, you're defamation of character, whatever." Sure, but there's so much that there's just so much that's so wrong with that because I don't want to be going into a urinal and then there's a woman coming out of the washroom and I'm like, "Yo, like this is weird," but it's happening. Why is it happening, April?
well, how is it defamation of character?
Well, because they're gonna be like, the bills and the rights, and they're trying to silence certain podcasters. So that's why I got to be on that fault line because I can't.
Okay.
Here's the thing:
Okay,
is I
I'll
can't
just put it.
swing one
If
way and I can't
anyone
swing the next way.
if anyone wants to know who the establishments are in London, Ontario that have taken away the women's washrooms, just send me a message on Instagram and I'll let you know.
Yeah,
Because
but I'm just saying it's dangerous though. It's
it's
dangerous for men
dangerous.
and women.
Yeah, I will not go to those establishments anymore. And it's very dangerous. I so this is what people, and I still can't believe people don't understand, and this is exactly what's happening with the sports is when you take away the women's washroom, okay, that's called discrimination. When you do not give us an option. So when you've taken away the women's and you're forcing us to go into the men's washroom and we have no other choice. It's not like they made a men's, a woman's, and then built the third universal for the people that want to go in with the men and women. So say if you were comfortable going in and just want to go in, Rory, then so be it. But they literally took away the women's and now are forcing little girls and women to go in with men. So there's a couple establishments here in London that are doing that. Well, I mean, it's all over the place. There's a couple in London though. That's called discrimination. And this is what's happening in sports is that they're basically forcing women to compete against men. In British Columbia, which I was an honorary guest at the Conservative launch of the tabling of the bill, they proposed a beautiful, beautiful bill, which was shot down by the NDP government. They proposed a male category, a female category, and a co-ed category. So that way, again, if people wanted to compete with transgender athletes, there was an open or just an open category. It was co-ed open. It was beautiful because it didn't discriminate against anyone and they shot it down. So that's what I'm saying. Like there's options, right? It was just that it's just, yeah.
And that's that this doesn't sit well with me because we talked about this on the last show that we did. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you're positioning discrimination, but then if I was to verbalize it based off of who I am, then I'll
Yeah.
be called all these different, well, you're this, you're that, you're that, you're this. And I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense because why is it that women, and I'm gonna be honest here, I know they're gonna say don't compare, but it feels like women are going back, are taking two steps back and they don't have their values and their principles. And it's kind of the same thing that us black folks had to go through however many fucking years ago.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, no,
help me. I'm not saying you, but help me understand the ones that are listening to this. Why is it like this? And why are people sitting on their hands? And why are people not wanting to say things on social media? There should be an outrage on social media.
well, people are so afraid. You have people that are in workplaces where there can't. So if you work for the federal government, that's a no-no. Right now, you won't be able to say anything, right? I don't work for the federal government, but also there's a difference between like anything that I've said online, right? This is purely, I've never said anything hateful. I mean, you've seen all the stuff that I've ever said. I'm an advocate for fairness. I'm also a women's rights advocate. I'm not a mean person. I'm not a mean spirited person. I actually even do a lot of help with people with mental health issues. I will never get online and hate anyone. I don't hate anyone. I don't hate gay people. I don't hate transgender people. A lot of my friends are transgender. I have half my friends are gay. Like, you know what I mean? There's a difference between inciting hate and also standing up for women and fairness and stuff, right? So people have to understand that. So just because I'm fighting for fairness in women-only spaces, that doesn't make someone transphobic. It's just, it's a bizarre world. But what happens is that people get so fearful, and when people don't lack the knowledge, but it's mostly fear, right? People start yelling out the words, right? Because they want to shut you down. But sadly enough, people, when they hear those words, they go, oh God, I can't handle it. And then they shut up and then they shut down, right? So you do have people that do give in to these words. You have people with jobs. You also have people with businesses that don't want to lose their business. Look at me, I got suspended for 2 years, right? So
and the thing is, the ones that are going to be, the newer audience members that are going to listen and watch this, they can go into the show notes and go watch the first episode. I totally do recommend to watch that because there's so much to be covered. And it's just like, I have this firm belief, if you're not speaking about it, that means you must think it's okay. You think it must be okay. And I know
yeah,
that I know personal women out there in my networking group that want to speak on certain things, but they're so scared because what is going to happen in my establishment? How am I going to be perceived to the world? You know what I mean?
yeah,
There's a podcaster. She's Palestinian, Lebanese, and she basically was like, she made a thing on her social media. She's like, I don't want to start talking about this because I feel like I'm going to lose all my following. And you know what she did? She mustered up the courage. She started talking about it, and so many people were sharing back like her message. Because you know what? I think what it does, it takes one person just to wick that flame, so you can then create a whole entire inferno. You know what I mean? And I think
yeah,
that between Canada and whatever is going on in this world with prime minister and all this stuff, he really got to give his head a shake. Because I'm not gonna knock Trudeau too much as yet, but it's just like, he does some things that make me question a lot of what's going on. But like, how do you sleep at night with what you know is going on, and you're having all these bills, you're having all these rights? That's why you got to get gone come next year. But then the reality comes in and play is he really gonna get gone? We don't know.
I can't. I have lots to say about Trudeau,
Yeah,
but
then we're done. Just pack it up.
uh, I posted a picture of myself wearing my Trump hat a couple of weeks ago, and I was advised to take it down. So I was like, okay, I'll take it down for now. But yeah,
Who advised you? The news group people and whatnot,
no, like
or the
conservatives, they're like,
conservative?
just take it down until we go to election in the fall. Then you can put it back up. So I was
Oh
like, okay.
yeah, yeah.
I
Oh
got a lot
yeah.
of love. I had like 1,000 people like it, and then I had a few people go, I can't believe you support him. After I'm like, look it, I do not support every single thing that every politician, like, no one does, right? But I tell you, Trump does support keeping female sports female. He knows the difference between a man and a woman, that's for sure. Biden wants to erase women completely. He doesn't care if men go into women's spaces. Let's see. It's basically, what are my choices? First of all, I'm not even American, so I'm not even voting. But I'm just saying, the lesser of evils, I would vote for Trump. You know what I mean? So
It's the agenda. It's the agenda, and
yeah,
I think people need to really just literally pick up a book, do your own research, and you will
yeah,
see that there's an agenda that's being pushed. We're all going through it, but we just have to just keep continuously pushing forward. And you see, they're
yeah,
starting to silence the big heavy hitters of influence now, because they're speaking up, and then they're getting deplatformed. And if you speak up too crazy, then all this other weird shit starts happening, and then we just get into conspiracy theorists, and then guess what? We're no longer
yeah.
here.
Like
They
we can talk.
just see our Instagram accounts, and it's game over, right?
We have to do a whole new episode. We could talk about gender ideology for like an hour and the whole higher agenda on that, the stuff that I
No,
know
no,
about
for
that.
sure,
So,
for
but
sure. Before we get out of here, though, April, you're continue to keep, trailblazing. Continue to keep doing what it is you're doing. I got to get myself some merch. I gotta get at least a hoodie. I got to pay it forward. You know what I mean? Support the creator, like always. But keep pushing forward. What's next? What's next for you? We're however many months left of the year. What's next for you? What are you
um,
trying to close out?
so what I'll have, so Thursday, actually, stay tuned because there's actually a huge national post article coming out. So myself will be in it. You know the boxer Katia Bissonnette? She was the boxer that actually refused to compete against a male boxer here in Canada. Dr. Linda Blade will be in it, but it's going to be a feature article on Thursdays online, but it'll be in print on Saturday. It's like I think it's going to hit 270 outlets across Canada, so it's
Love that.
massive, and it's all pro women, pro fairness. It basically, I think it touches on like basically how sports helped me with my mental health and addictions, my fight, my battle. I think Amy Peterson podcast will be coming out. Jordan Peterson's wife, I was on her podcast. That should be coming out the next couple of weeks. But otherwise, I just suggest to people just to subscribe to my newsletter. That's how you can kind of stay up and current. Go to my website, which is www.aprilhutchinson.com, and just check out my website. There's lots of goodies on there. Like you can buy some merch. I keep female sports female merch. All the proceeds go towards my advocacy because like for me to travel to like British Columbia and to do all my speeches and just to educate people, whether it's go to a university or go do a speech, it all costs money. So all the funds go towards that. And yeah, just I'm trying to take it easy this summer, to be honest, because it's been so hectic. So I just want to have like a nice chill summer around
You need
town.
that
And
though. You need
yeah,
that. You need that. No,
a good
definitely.
mental break. So
Yeah, of course. Of course. We all do. We all do. Sometimes you got to take a couple weeks off of podcasting, I like to say. You know what I mean?
yeah, it
No,
gets
no, that good
draining.
stuff.
It gets draining. You know what I mean? Like constantly talking about it and being online. So I'm just trying to chill a little bit. So
No, no, for sure. Well, all right. I appreciate you. We'll talk soon.
okay, see you, buddy.
Yeah.